and this is the meeting of the Process Committee, CRC Process Committee on this May 16th of 2021. The time now is about 1:05. We're scheduled to go to 3 o'clock, and you know, depending on the availability of other folks and where we are at that time, it could go longer, but that's what we're looking at now. The first, let me ask, you all are probably aware that I just got the minutes to you minutes ago, literally minutes. I had gotten the minutes yesterday from Patty. I mean, it's so soon, you know, this is Wednesday and now it's
11 o'clock at night.
it's Sunday, and Patty, thank you.
Patty.
But at any rate, does anybody have any corrections to the minutes? Not hearing any. Do I have a motion to accept the minutes?
Moved.
Okay, I'll second the motion. All in favor, say aye, or raise your hand, please. Aye. Okay, that'll do it. And opposed, one opposed. Patty's opposed. And the any abstentions? Thank you, Liz, and thank you, Patty. Okay, that motion passes.
Could we hear the opposition?
Sure. After all, it was Patty.
Comment.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you were voting. No. What is your comment, Patty?
Oh, I have a comment only that I didn't realize that this was an official meeting until I looked back at your agenda that you had sent. And I'm sorry, I only sent the minutes like last night at 11 o'clock. But anyway, I just didn't realize this was an official meeting. So
Sure.
apparently my internet connection is not very stable. You're hearing me a long time after I say things.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Oh,
Well, we'll try to adjust to that. Yes.
So were
Liz?
you actually voting against the minutes?
Oh.
So that was a vote for the minutes. So we had everyone was voting for it except Liz, who abstained. Okay, Liz, what you got?
I abstain because I haven't seen it. And also,
course.
Mr. Chair, I wanted to make sure you had seen Kevin's note in the chat that he has a hard stop in 1 hour.
All right, let's get cracking. I really appreciate Kevin showing up because his input is going to be very important here. Let me say a few things at the outset, and then we'll launch into completion.
You haven't heard what I might have to say yet. Maybe it's not worthwhile.
Oh, do you want to start off, Kevin? I'll be glad to hear. Okay.
No.
All right.
I'm here because you asked that I sit in, so I'm sitting in.
I appreciate that very much. And before we start off with the completion of the Bill of Rights, let me go through briefly what has occurred since then. At the request of the committee, I sent an email to Randy Gaylord, and I asked him to take a look at the very last part that we hadn't done, the restoration part. And remember, I had an idea about using a 9.314 subsection 4 of the present charter, which talks about basically telling the city council to enact an enabling ordinance, an ordinance that would enable us to do these things. And asking him if that were possible to do that. Bill had already given me the opinion that he didn't think that that's how that read. And Bill is, in my experience, Bill is usually right about this kind of stuff. So I got with Randy, and Randy basically affirmed that that's not what that enabling ordinance was supposed to do. In the process of taking a look at that, he told me, I can't really give you an opinion on this unless I have some context. Would you send me the rest of what you're working on? Well, what I sent him was the stuff that I had come up with, because that had all been, and I told him this, that had all been kind of tossed out by the committee. The committee didn't like it. And I really just wanted him to look at the last section. And so then I sent that on to him with those words. And he sent us back a broader opinion that included the rights of nature. And basically he said, you can't do that, and set out the reasons why. And he talked about the doctrine of preemption that we had been given the right to reorganize our government, but not the right to create substantive law, which we would be doing there, especially when it comes down to penalties, punitive law. And that was the exercise of the police power, which had been explicitly excluded. And he suggested basically that in thinking about the rights of nature, that we use what in the law is called, well, he didn't use this term, but precatory terms, which means you wish, you want this to be the case, but you don't have, you're not making a demand that it become law. So that's kind of where we are. I don't know whether you all had the opportunity. I think I sent everybody a copy of the opinion, and there it is. I was disappointed by it, obviously, because I thought we might have had a way in there. Yeah, Sharon, and you're muted.
I haven't gotten all the way through what Kai sent us yet, and there's also other things about rights of nature that I have up on my screen that I haven't gotten through yet.
Yeah.
But I think just from my background with the rights of nature movement, it's been communities around the country trying to get ordinances passed that are actually unconstitutional because they interfere with interstate commerce. And these communities are trying to pass those ordinances anyway, despite the fact that they're unconstitutional, because they need to do something to protect their communities from these big industries coming in. And yeah, I'm done. Kevin, go ahead.
Yes, Kevin.
A couple points. So one, for anybody who would like to, I would love to geek out on the Interstate Commerce Clause. I actually wrote a legal memo last year for Congress and for state legislatures who were looking at passing plastics legislation and then also blocking offshore oil drilling. And both of those, there were very strong arguments on the Interstate Commerce Clause, and there are ways around that. However, the very first thing you said, Sharon, I just want to call attention to, and I'll probably end up being a one-trick pony on this. We can't pass ordinances. The Charter Review Commission has no authority to do ordinances. That is very expressly given, that authority is expressly given to the legislative body, which in this case is the county council.
Right. I know that. I was just giving the origins of this.
Yeah. So, but on interstate commerce, there's ways local governments and state governments can get around that by, we have a federal constitutional ability to protect human rights and safety. And so where impacting nature can be seen as an impact on our economy as well, our economy or safety, that can come into play. But again, I think the catch for us is that we're not the legislative branch. We create the structure of government, not the policy.
The sole area where we can instruct the city council to pass an ordinance is an enabling ordinance in the area that we are empowered, where we're empowered to do it by the Constitution, which is organizing our government. In other words, we create this office over here and put these powers there and move this over there. And in those instances, if we need an enabling ordinance, we can instruct the council to give us one there, but not in what we're attempting to do, which is to create a whole cloth. And yes, Liz.
Kevin, in particular, this directed towards you. Have you had a chance to see the document from CRC Community Rights San Juan Islands? It's a whole list of findings and stuff. My question is, and I can share my screen if you haven't had a chance to see it, but so I'm looking at it now, and in part of their findings, so they have, they did a great job here of listing issues and findings. Is the Bill of Rights cannot be implemented within a home rule charter. That's a list of one of many issues. And then it goes on to say, findings, Bill of Rights have been implemented and incorporated into local charters in several communities across the US. And then it lists Grant Townsburg, Petersburg, Broadsville Heights, Santa Monica, and then there's a chart that I haven't had time to drill down into, which all kinds of different places and how it was incorporated. So what do we do with that finding?
I know that question was addressed to Kevin, but Kevin, before I call on you to respond to that, let me just tell you, Liz, that Grant Township, they took that to court. They lost, and they were assessed $600,000 in attorney's fees. They settled for $100,000 because PG&E and everybody involved realized that would bankrupt Grant Township, and so they settled for $100,000, and that was actually paid by the advocacy agency that went along with him. Yes, Liz, and then we'll get to Kevin.
Let me respond to you, and then I am interested in Kevin. So for me, that fall, not that that's probably totally accurate, no disagreement there, but for me, that falls into the category of fear mongering. And the very reason we need to be doing this, that most of us operate under an assumption that we actually have the right to protect our community, our water, our air, our resources, when the truth is that the corporations, our laws defer and support the corporations. So I'm not here to argue, and I don't think any of us want to spend time arguing specific cases. It's just that it is something that is occurring globally, locally. It's on the move, and so I'm asking, how do we respond to those findings? And are we just saying we're putting down the fight because it's too big a fight? If that's the case, then let's just say it that way. But Kevin, please.
Liz, I understood what you're saying, and the only reason I brought up what actually happened in the case is because you cited the case yourself. That's the only reason I brought it up. Okay, Kevin, go ahead.
So I would say a couple things. One is, as Randy will continually remind us appropriately, any example outside of Washington State, just to be totally blunt, doesn't matter. We've got our own constitution, our own state laws, our own legal precedent, and so on. And so it doesn't matter. It's too strong, frankly. But it is less relevant. And so we need examples from Washington State. To your last point you made, though, Liz, I hope that we're not backing off of things just because there may be a challenge. I said in our very first meeting, I hope that we can be bold. There is a difference in my mind, however, between being bold and not having the ability very clearly to do something. And unfortunately, the more I read, the more I question if we as a charter review commission have the ability to do this. I do question if the county council may have the ability to get at some of this. But I don't see the language that would allow us to do it as a charter review commission per se, at least the way your committee has put it forward. But with everything we're doing, from this issue to environment and climate to justice and equity, us being challenged should by no means defray us or slow us from doing incredible things. And frankly, I don't know of any incredible thing that's happened within government that hasn't been challenged. And so we should all gear up for that, and the county should gear up for that, because I hope that we can do some bold things. I just don't know if the examples from outside of the state are going to be precedent setting for us. And I actually, the past mayor of Santa Monica is a very close friend. My father was very engaged in politics in Santa Monica, California for a long time. And I reached out to Judy as well as Jim, who were the first mayors who even started to talk about this. And that was 15 years ago, 20 years ago, and had long conversations. And even there, what ended up becoming law is different than what we dream of. I would say it's weaker.
Thank you, Kevin. Sharon.
Yeah, a couple of things. Just in Randy's statement to us about this, he actually suggested some language that, of course, it's weaker than what we would like. But if we think of this preamble as a vision statement, and then we actually create more positions in our county government to real basis,
You're really breaking up, Sharon.
maybe that will be, how can we, oh,
It's not-
damn,
We got the gist of what you were saying.
I can,
though.
am I breaking up now?
No, you're good now. Go.
Let me try that again.
Yeah.
If we can view our preamble as a strong vision statement and get one or more positions going in the county to actually enforce regulations. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Then I think what we're looking at here is trying to push things forward in a very real way, dealing with the confines of state law and to some degree a lack of dialogue with the whole community. Because I think the reason some people are getting really angry is that there's a lack of trust, there's a lack of communication. That's not our fault, but I think it's something we need to work with.
Thank you, Sharon. I see your hand, Kyle. But Patty, did you wave your hand a little bit ago? No. Go ahead, Kyle.
Shoot, I wanted to hear what she had to say.
I
I
always do.
I wonder for the group. I'm saddened. I just spent the last few days in some of our state's more extraordinary nature. I saw this challenge coming. Nonetheless, I'm still really grinding on how aggressive to move forward. And I have a question for the group, I guess for each one of you. In the time, because we're going to develop whatever we develop and kind of roll it out. Let's assume by mid-July, the general county public has an idea of what it is that we're trying to accomplish, whether it's the OCE or this. In the time from mid-July until November, what's going to be the uptake of the public in people's minds? Is this going to galvanize people who are more interested in supporting this and voting for this and making them, rally despite the illegal or sort of the edges of legality kind of nature of it? Or will people shy away because somewhere someone, already the PA is on record, challenging what it is that we've created? And, is that relevant? Is the fight ahead or this challenge and back and forth, is this going to be relevant? Is it going to scare people away from their ballots in November? Or are they going to, is there something, I guess part of what I'm asking, is there something that we can do in this process right now to kind of reinforce or better galvanize what we'd like to accomplish to survive this back and forth kind of public piece that I see? And I don't think it's a small question.
Right.
And so
Right.
I'm curious how people feel like this will, because right now we've made it, I think we're making it kind of us versus the PA, or, traditional versus edgy and fresh. And I appreciate all where the law sits and how difficult it is, but how well it does come November is really going to be relevant on maybe even on some of the very political or very public positioning.
Liz, I see your hand, but I just have a short comment. I think a possibility is to do what Sharon tossed out there, which is to use that phrase that it's kind of a compromise. If we want to compromise, maybe we don't want to compromise, but if we want to compromise, the phrase that our attorney trotted by us, he said, if you put this in here, you're going to be okay. And that phrase was subject to the Constitution and general laws of the state of Washington. And folks, we're not going to be able to get anything that is not subject to that. So why not put it in? And Randy suggested that as a way that we could move forward with what we wanted to do. So anyway, that's one consideration. Go ahead, Liz.
So we have kind of two different conversations on the table right now. One moving towards a inspirational document, versus rights of nature. And then Kyle, you're asking, what's our best guess of what we might do how the community is going to respond. And one place we could turn for that, I don't know if you all happened to catch Robin Reed, who I think has spoken twice to the group. She is a lifetime, I'm going to butcher this. Oh, I hate this. She's a lifetime member of the U.S. National Scientists, and that's not, anyway, they report, does anybody know that title? I apologize, I'm butchering it.
National Science Foundation.
So yeah, so she's a wealth of information. She and a group of students conducted a survey here on island that met all the parameters for having it be, you know, ethnically, age-wise, socioeconomic. So it's diverse. It was a small study, but it was a very diverse study, asking questions about where people landed in their take on protection of the environment. And, you know, we can get a direct quote from her on that, but the bottom line that I've heard from her is, without exception, regardless of any of the parameters, there was total consent in terms of protecting the natural world, protecting the environment. So I'm thinking that the public is possibly a lot more ready to take these actions than we may be giving them credit for. And if it's helpful, I can ask Robin to put together a little something quickly, you know, assuming she has time to do that.
Wouldn't hurt.
But
Thank you, Liz. Kevin.
Liz, I think she's a lifetime member of the National Academy of Science, which if that's the case, then just so folks know, that's a big deal. You don't get a lifetime membership just because you pay fees or something. That's not how that works.
whatever the title is, it's a big deal. So I apologize again for butchering it on the record here. My bad.
Yeah, I wanted to touch on your point though, which is, I don't think there's any question that our community would support something like this. If it was about public will, or public desire, I think that we could move forward. When my last year in the legislature was the last time I've done polling in this community, so just over 2 years ago, and I did some pretty dramatic polling, and I will tell you that issues of the environment in San Juan County generally poll around high 60 percentile. That said, the issue that comes up for me is that we may not have the legal ability to do it. So two things come up. One is we could put it on the ballot, and I believe, and I looked to Bill and Bob on this, but I believe there's a ability for the ballot measure to be challenged before it even gets to a vote. I know that happened with one of our initiatives. I don't know if it can happen with a charter amendment. I think, frankly, that's disgusting. I think it should be made law before there's an illegal challenge that would be able to stay it. But regardless of whether it's before it's actually voted upon or afterward, I think it would be damning and actually impactful to have something like this go forward and then fail on a legal challenge. I can see some scenarios where that's just a negative for the community, and it really is a heartbreaker. And if it's clear that we don't have authority, then I kind of start to fall back a little bit. Although I'm just like what Kyle said earlier, I'm still, when you and others started first talking about this, I got very excited.
Yes.
And I want to find a way to get to yes, but right now I just don't see that. The broader issue though of how do we provide greater protection for the environment, action on climate change, all these things that we would want a Bill of Rights for nature to do, I think we're discussing as a CRC, and we do have the authority to do in some of the other discussions we're having. So for me, I am not heartbroken that we're not going to do something on the environment. I think we are, and I think it could be bold. I just don't know if this step is going to be able to be made. And I have one last point, if I may, Mr. Chair.
Sure.
And I'll try and shut up for the rest of my time on the call. There's pros and cons with doing a vision statement or a should versus a shall. I look at this, and one of the cons, the pros are that we get it out there and we say, hey, we think this is really important, and the public reads it, gets excited about that. It also allows politicians and the public to celebrate a victory when actually there's no teeth in it and nothing's really going to come of it. We've heard from several people their frustration that our comp plan has this beautiful vision statement and how much of that has actually ever been implemented. And it's why a bunch of us last year were looking at actually drafting ordinances to implement some of the resolutions that were passed by the county on justice and equity and on climate change. And so I get a little concerned, and I'm not saying that your committee shouldn't recommend this to the full commission, but I get a little concerned when we do a kind of vision statement, because most people in the community hear about that and they think, oh, great, we did it. And in fact, we're not doing it.
Let me respond to that. I think that if we added that line that he was suggesting, subject to the Constitution and general laws of the state of Washington, I think that takes care of, and Bill might disagree with me, I don't know, but I think that takes care of the issue of preemption. It takes care of the issue of whether or not we're trying to make law where we can't do it because of the state. Now, there are other problems, though. In the Lake Erie case, language identical to some of the language we used in here was called by the federal court as a violation of the Fifth Amendment, basically, of people's right to due process, because it was unconstitutionally vague. The language was unconstitutionally vague. Specifically, it was, let's see, if I can find the exact language in here. It had to do with the right of nature to grow and evolve without being interfered with and all of that. And they called that, it was the phrase was identical. And so we would need to avoid being unconstitutionally vague. To me, that's a pretty hard thing to figure out what that is, you know, but that's the other avenue of attack, even if we took care of preemption. But at any rate, I think we might be able to get past the idea of preemption by putting in this subject to the Constitution and general laws of the state of Washington. I'm interested as to what the committee feels about the idea of adding that subject to the Constitution and the general laws of the state of Washington in our preamble. We actually, not our preamble, but our declaration here. And actually, Liz has that part of that phrase, or actually all of that phrase, under the right to self-government in that section. She actually says right to self-government, comma, subject to the Constitution and general laws of the state of Washington. That's all we need. But it needs to pertain to the entire declaration. And if we can do that, you know, then we have another decision. Is that enough to get us across the finish line? And is it worthwhile to do something like this? What do you guys think of that? And Sharon, do you have your hand up? Is that the yellow hand?
Yeah, I did have my hand up.
Go ahead,
Al's
please.
hand is up.
I just wanted to say that what I put in the chat, basically, which I'm not sure if people had a chance to see, but I think where we are, correct me if I'm wrong, it seems to me where we are now is what can we legally, under state law, put in the charter that supports what we want to do with creating structure for the county, and that would support ordinances that we would like to have the county council pass.
I think we can do what we want to as far as the structure of the government. If you leave out the couple of the prosecuting attorney and the judges, et cetera, we're allowed to do what we want to regarding the structure of the government. But this is, of course, what we were wanting to do here isn't really a structural structure of the government question, but we can do what we want and demand an implementing ordinance for that also. But who else? I think Kyle, you had your hand up, right?
Yeah, I have two things. To answer your question, Bob, I think I won't walk away unless there's some minimum, statement of some kind, whether it's amended into the preamble so that it's, values rich and continues our aspirational kind of bullet list. But everything else about, And I appreciate that we were sort of stepping around specifically rights of nature already anyway. I think the subject to the rights of, or subject to the state constitution, et cetera, is, I understand where it goes and why people use it, but it, in effect, it undoes everything that we spent the last few weeks doing, in my opinion. And to another point, I don't mind, and I have not asked the people who I represent this question, and their responses may be very different. Personally, I don't mind incurring cost to the county by way of defending an interest that we have, especially if it falls within our within the commission's work product. If we can work on structure and that's well within our limits, then fine. I don't mind that the PA's office might have to defend the people's vote, in fact, not us, but the people's vote after November. I don't feel comfortable, and I hadn't thought about this today, incurring a civil liabilities or a long-term indebtedness to the county for, other legal fees, or somehow for, for any litigation that is known to be kind of frivolous from the beginning because state law or whatever stipulates. That doesn't mean I'm ready to shy away from challenging what is, and I'm no further along in how to do this except the commitment. I'm really struggling here that your hands are tied, and if you do it by, you do it how you're told, you don't make any of that sort of collective leap forward. And so I'll just summarize and say, I do support something in there that says that we expressly, that we, the county, value the natural world. And in fact, the idea that ecosystems have rights, I will support that. And if we have to spend hours today figuring out that language, or we have to delay our report, whatever it takes to do that, but it's not the same. And it isn't, we've undone, I sort of feel bad for waiting, and maybe this goes to Bill, it's kind of an apology to Bill, waiting to get this language to the PA's office now, because now the emotional toll is on all of us, unless we just decide we're going to charge forward. So
How about you, Liz? What do you think about charging forward, or the comments Kyle just made?
Oh, thank you, Bob. And I am equally torn, I think, as we all are, as Bill has been from the get-go. And the idea of moving something forward in order to reveal a major missing in our state and federal government, so that people can understand. It's more of a wake-up call than it is anything else. It's a means to have people see that we don't have the rights, we don't have the protection. The government is not tilted towards our side. To me, that's the effort that CRCG is asking us to take, is to say, be part of that clarion call. And the cost of doing that and weighing a loss in the face of the OCE, I'm so torn. And I mean, I came on to align our three strongest county documents, the comp plan and the home rule charter, and I always forget the third one, to get those three to line up and support one another is part of what I want to do. And we still seem so far from doing that. So I apologize, Bob. I know that's not helpful, but
it is helpful. I mean, it's something.
Yeah.
We really have to resolve this. Patty, can you contribute? What do you think about this? I know you're trying to keep minutes.
Yeah, and I'm not doing all that great because I think my connection isn't the best, but yeah, I'm getting to be emotionally drained. Pulling those comments together and trying to come up with something, that could be used, at least a few of them could be used for findings, even though all they really are is public testimony, but they are there saying, please do this. go out there and do something that, like, because they keep coming up with the fact that women didn't have the vote or that slave keeping was legal and all of this. These things were illegal. And it took a long time before things changed. But
Mhm.
when we as a county came up and said no to GMOs, I mean, I went down to Seattle. I had the big bumper sticker on my car and people would look at me, oh, you're weird. What's wrong with GMOs? Well, it just takes some educating. And that was scientists at the University of Washington, like, what's wrong with that? I'm so for going out there, but I totally understand the other side of it. We can't really do anything that has teeth if it's not legal. I mean, what's the sense? And I did get disillusioned by the office that they're talking about, because it's all about climate change, and this is more than climate change. This is all the things we're doing to nature. That who cares if it has something to do with climate change? It abuses our environment, and I really want to put a stop to it. So you shouldn't have asked me for my opinion, because I'm just wiped.
No, your opinion is very important. Sharon and then Liz. Sharon, you got your hand up.
First of all, I just want to give empathy for all of us that are emotionally wiped out over this, because we are trying so hard to do what we can under less than ideal conditions in a variety of ways. So lots of empathy to everybody on that front. I have to say, it does not help when somebody like Alexandra comes on and says, well, I might as well just take my marbles and go home. If you're not sitting on this commission, you don't know what it feels like. And I think all of us that were elected to do this work are very committed to seeing changes in this county. I just want to say thank you.
Thank you, Sharon. Liz, you had your hand up?
Well, one thing, just, speaking, in defense of the public, and Sharon, I know, the generosity of your heart. I think sometimes when we hear what appears to be short, rude, I think what we're running into is true cellular fear, that so many of us know we are on a razor's edge for this whole thing crashing around us. So I think we just have to remember, when people are short with us about not producing the results we want and not being able to move fast enough, that what we're really hearing is we're hearing fear. So thank you. The other thing I wanted to say is that, so the document that we just received is full of what I think is very helpful information and would answer some of the things. So now, is there a way to take what we've been given and, in the time we have, do what needs to be done? Or Kevin is still here with us. Can we push our report, back another week, 10 days? Like, what I hear is we don't want to give up and we don't know how to move forward.
Right. Yeah, I think there may be a path, but it's going to require us to not quite get what we want. I mean, Liz, I was looking at your declaration thing, and we have gone through half of it and said, this is good, this is good, this is good. And I don't think will be violative of this principle if we put that one phrase in there. Then when we get down to restorative justice, we can't do that. We can't have that. But what we might be able to do is, at least not that way, but I've rewritten a section of it. I don't want to. Right now we're trying to do something else, but I've rewritten a section of it where it might work. I wanted to respond briefly to something Patty said. She brought up the thing that often gets brought up to us, which is, hey, how about Black people were enslaved, and they after that they didn't have the vote, and then women didn't have the vote up until 2020. What about 1920? What about those things? And the one thing to consider, but those corrections were not made by county governments. Those corrections were made by constitutional amendments. They were made at the right level, the level that the law provides you can do it at. All of those corrections. Now, it's certainly true that folks, the government had to be pushed in that direction. And that's, that's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying, no one tried to end slavery at the county level, or give women votes at the county level. They did at the state level, and we could do things at the state level, but that's a different question. And here we are at the county level. It's so frustrating. Who had their hand up over here? Was it
Kevin.
Sharon or Kevin? Go ahead, Kevin.
Going to say that I think some of you did as well. I worked on marriage equality for about 18 years, pretty seriously, and was pretty heavily involved in national campaigns on that and strategy. And that started at the city and county level. It, however, did not get any traction until it was at the state level. But the main reason the Supreme Court was ultimately able to go the direction it did is because so many states had already passed it. We were in the forefront in Washington, and we were the 7th state. And then there was, 13 or something after us within a year. And so there is a trend in our country for states doing things. Washington state legalized abortion before the federal government did. We are a progressive state. However, to Bob's point, a lot of this action happens at the state level. It's frankly, when I was a county commissioner and I jumped to the state Senate, the main reason I did that was because too many of the issues that I was fighting or wanting to really push weren't being discussed at the county level. They were being discussed at the state level.
That doesn't mean that the county has to give up
No.
hope. We can have our new department, and that our new commissioner can be taxed with communing with the legislators and trying to get statutes that will get these things for us. But in the meantime, what do we do? That's the question. Kevin.
Sorry, I had one other point I just wanted to say in responding to Patty, something you said. I think we have failed if the Office of Climate and Environment only deals with climate change. And if you read the document that's been put forward by Anne Marie Shanks, the draft proposal, the state laws that have implications on the county that are specifically cited are the Critical Areas Ordinance and the Shoreline Master Program. Would come into jurisdiction of this new department. And so what's being looked at there are some pretty heavy, very important environmental laws that, yes, will have implications on climate action, but most importantly, that's the kind of Clean Water Act, ESA for the local level, right? It's the Coastal Zone Management Act for the local level, and it's the ESA for the local level. And what we're saying is that those laws would come under the jurisdiction of the new department combined with enforcement, which I do really, like I said, Patty, I sure hope that if we're successful and the voters support that will be a bold action on climate, on the environment that we will see for years to come.
Thank you, Patty.
May I just say,
Yes.
I got that impression by reading the findings, and they seem to just go totally to climate change. And, and there are a lot of people who don't even want to admit to global warming, but they're so for the other issues. I just wanted to say that. That's all. Sorry.
Let me trot something out. Oh, go ahead, Liz, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So two things, given that, Kevin, we have not a lot more of your time, is one, is there something that you see that we could do from your perspective? Let me just stop there.
This is why you're here, Mr. Chair.
He's focused on bringing in somebody.
My short answer is, I don't know. You're not going to like either of my answers. My longer answer is, as far as something that has teeth, I don't know if it's possible. And it's not at the point where and let me preface this by saying, I swear, when this idea first came up, I was euphoric. I got off the first call. I ran upstairs to my wife. I was like, oh my God, we're going to do rights of nature. This is amazing. And then I started doing my own research too. And I'm the kind of person who scares attorneys like Bob and Bill or Randy, because I've actually studied quite a bit of law. I also wrote laws. I was also a judge. I was on the Shoreline Hearings Board for 4 years. And I'm not an attorney. So I know enough literally to be dangerous. But in my own research, I haven't found anything in Washington state constitution or statute that would allow us to do something that has teeth. And for that reason, it's like I said, it's not about us doing something and being challenged. If I thought there was a legal argument for us to do what we were doing and there just wasn't case law or precedent yet, I would say, let's go for it. And we're going to go to Randy and be like, sorry, dude, you're going to have another big lawsuit and challenge. But there's something that suggests we can go there. Right now, I don't see anything in our state law that suggests we could do it at this point. And so I just don't know. I'm really torn and I'm frankly sad about it. But like I said, some of the other actions being discussed by our commission, I think, get at the end goal that we're trying to reach with rights of nature. The end goal is protecting the environment, and in a really bold way that we haven't done in the past. I think we can get there through another means.
So, Mr. Chair, if I may,
Yes,
Excuse me one second. Excuse me one second. A
Sharon
technical,
was, what is it?
just a technical issue. I believe we have a member of the public who's trying to get back in, and you need to admit her
Thank
back
you.
into the meeting. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Sharon.
Let's see, that would be,
so Kevin, let me rephrase the question if I
Boom.
may. If our goal is that we produce something that reinforces the OCE, what might you imagine if we switch and that was our goal? To bolster, make stronger.
Then you get back to some sort of vision statement that is very clear on the prioritization of the protection of nature. I think when you use the words rights of nature, that rights under the law mean different things. And so when you start to use that language, it's a red flag for every attorney out there, both some who support the idea and some who don't. So to support the OCE, if there were a statement prioritizing protection of nature, I think that could be powerful. Not as powerful as taking the action that your committee's been talking about for months now, but it goes in the right direction.
Okay, thank you.
I'm sorry, Liz. I feel when I read Randy's memo, it just unfortunately it underscored for me what I had already researched, and I feel like I got hit in the gut. Frankly, I feel like I got hit in the gut on half the stuff we're doing because we keep getting told no, and I would like people to tell us how to get to yes. But I still am excited about being on this commission because I still believe there's some incredible things that we can accomplish. And I can't remember if it was Patty or you, Liz, talking about just how my words drained. I think we're all exhausted. And we're all just sad that our biggest dreams seem to be, people come in and go, oh, I know you wanted 10 out of 10. How about 2? And unfortunately, that's government. But I still think on some of these things, we could get 7 or 8 out of 10. On this one, I'm just not sure. I don't see it. If somebody could tell me the legal argument for how we could do this, I'd be the first one to go to Randy or whomever else and argue, hey, we're going to do this. And how do we work out a challenge, an argument that can be challenged, that can win a challenge? I just don't see it yet.
One possibility, well, go ahead, Bill, you haven't talked at all, so please.
Well, I haven't, I think for good reason. I just, as Liz said, who has borne the brunt of the anger portion of the stages of grief. I've been in grief for 4.5 months. I've been aware of this problem. I've been trying to say it, but I share your concerns that actually blind us to the tools we have. We can only use the tools we have. And if you wanted to step out and force some litigation, that's something you can hope for, gets through the CRC, gets through an election of the people. I have to say, I don't think it would make the second if it makes the first screen. We've got to get something that actually goes through, not just what we want. Politics, and this is politics, is the art of compromise. And we also have to stay clearly within the boundaries, because if we're caught outside the boundaries, we've just created a huge hurdle for ourselves in an election. And that's why I sent out my email this morning. But I do want to say that the grief you're feeling, I have felt for 4.5 months, and it has been absolutely miserable. I'm not happy that you're joining me in this. I'd much rather have a success party, but this isn't where we headed ourselves, and we have to adjust ourselves to the reality that is cold, very cold. And I have to adjust myself to it. And it's been no fun for me, and it's no fun for you now. I'm only glad I've got company.
It sounds to, go ahead,
I think
Liz,
somebody
please.
else is trying to enter.
Oh, thank you. Participants, let's see. Yes, and yes. That's it, I think. Thank you very much. It sounds to, it sounds to me that the place where we are at, where we have arrived, is a kind of a sad place, but a place where we are recognizing that maybe the best we can do is a statement of values that we ask the commission and the council to put into effect in the best way they can. You know, maybe send that message we're sending to the council, that we include one thing that
Recommendations.
says that says, please do your best to install these values through ordinances that will work, you know, and then go to the climate. Matter of fact, we could put in the charter, as we put these values in, that we're asking the climate department to do their best to install these values. Of course, then if you put that in there, we take the risk that they won't make it, and you know, but I mean that they won't be, that amendment won't make it. But is that where we are, folks? Sounds like, it sounded to me from going around the room that that's kind of where we ended.
And Bob, this
Ended
vote
up.
may just take a pause. That maybe what is needed right now is just.
It's sad, it's sad, but we should come up with the best thing we can, the strongest thing we can, without bumping our heads against the wall. Patty. Go ahead, Patty.
Yeah, so we have a preamble that we want to
Yes,
have
we do.
findings for and present, and you're going to send that to me, because I think I have 6 or 7 preambles in my files and I got mixed up.
Right. I have one that's marked correctly.
And then I don't know what beyond that, other than, you know, your recommendations. Do we not go with a Bill of Rights presented as an example of our vision statement that could be within the preamble? Or what are we talking about doing? Or do we take more time with this whole thing and not have it before the voters in November, as Kevin has sort of been saying for a while? Maybe we've gone as far as we can, and let's act and do what we can. I do need findings that are reasonably short enough to put in an Excel document. And like I say, the big strong thing I got from people when I was over reading all our testimony was, hey, be bold, act now, get it out there. Even if it doesn't go, at least your consciousness raising. And I don't know quite how best to do that.
What if we produced a document, a relatively short document, that was entitled something like "The Values of This Community Regarding the Rights of Nature"?
Kevin has his hand up, Bob.
Yes, just put that in your, Kevin,
Thank you.
and then Kyle.
A couple points. One is anytime you say rights of nature, I think you're going to raise that red flag, but that's okay. You can caveat it. I'm going to have to sign off. I just wanted to leave one thing with each of you, which is, yes, it's discouraging that it doesn't look like legally we may be able to do the bold rights of nature that was originally envisioned. However, I truly believe that everybody in our community who is dreaming about the rights of nature has the same end goal and the same motivation, which is much greater protection for the environment and restoration of the environment. So really rebuilding the ecology of these islands. And I believe that end goal can still be reached by the other actions the commission is taking. So I'm not as discouraged about rights of nature potentially not being there in the end, because I believe if we're successful on the OCE, the way Anne-Marie has drafted it right now, we will have some of the more progressive opportunities for environmental protection and restoration and acknowledgement of any county in the country by far. And we'll be the first county, we will be the first government in the entire country, actually the first government as far as I'm aware of in North America, that has an elected position to do that, which has a great deal of power. So again, I feel like there's still some we shouldn't be as sad as we are right now on this call. I think there's a reason to be encouraged and frankly have hope for the opportunity ahead of us. So, sorry.
Thank you, Kevin. Thank you for coming to the meeting and chiming in. We really appreciate it. By the way,
Kyle.
by the way, we do have another meeting coming up on Tuesday. If you're sitting around with nothing to do at 10:30, your encouragement or discouragement, whatever you would call it, is very valued by us. Thank you a lot for coming.
Yeah, I'm sorry I can't stay longer. We should have a new staff person at the beginning of this week who will be able to help with a lot of stuff too, and answer questions. So that'll be.
Do you
It's
have
not
something?
Obama. I don't care.
Liz, do you have something before Kevin leaves? Is it a Kevin dependent thing?
Kevin, I appreciate what you said, and adding a little, oxygen to this conversation is great. And I think rebuilding trust with the community is going to come down to how serious are we about enforcement? Because if that doesn't come through, we've failed the public from my perspective.
I will say there's some questioning whether or not, so we're looking at, no, I'm not going to steal your agenda.
Yeah.
100% with you on that, Liz. And it's an area where we're getting some pushback from some folks just around. And it's an area where I think Anne-Marie and that entire committee could use everybody's help thinking through, because there will be challenges on some of that stuff. And again, the difference is in those scenarios, there is state statute, constitutional opportunities, as well as state and federal laws that grant some of the authorities. Some of them, however, have no precedent. And so there will need to be more work on that, but it's exciting. It's a real opportunity.
Okay.
Thanks,
Woo-hoo.
Kevin. Bye. Okay, I have a suggestion. And the suggestion is that we ask somebody other than myself, because I have impending tax things to do before Monday, but ask someone to draft a proposed values. I mean, we can just obviously we'll discuss this, but a proposed value statement. We set out that these are the values of the community regarding, and I personally would like to keep rights of nature in there, the rights of nature, and then we list what those are, and then at the end we ask the the county council to implement as many of these values as they can through appropriate ordinances, and that we ask the climate commissioner to go as far as he or she can in implementing those same values. So Kyle, you had your hand up.
Um, my impression is, Mr. Chair, you're thinking of a document that is different or in addition to the preamble. And I like it at face value. I don't know how it fits ultimately in a vote of the people. I think maybe, and I appreciated that we wanted to keep the preamble short. I think the current version is what I found. It's in the chat. There is a phrase in there, the second from the last one, that says, "We recognize that nature has the right to survive and thrive and affirm our obligation to defend those rights."
Right.
If in fact that's the right one, or the correct one, I think some comparatively simple massaging of that part of that paragraph gets us most of the way there. If you are seeing a longer document than that, then I think it kicks us back to the beginning of our conversation about a Bill of Rights. And I think the best source of that, ironically, was back in the introduction to the comp plan. So I don't think I hear us preparing to go back that far. And if we are talking about our values, I mean, they're certainly more complex than we got down to the rights of nature, because that was really what we were trying to target ultimately in our hearts, I think. And we left a lot of stuff in the ditch, I think, on the way. And I think at the time that was appropriate. I don't know that we go back and do that. We don't have time, frankly. But if it is rights of nature, or that relationship that we want to better qualify and codify, then I think our preamble is sufficiently aspirational and a values list, even though it's super short and concise. I would put it there. That would be my suggestion, short of a second whole another additional document.
You would suggest that we put what our values are in the preamble, expand the preamble. Is that what you're saying? Okay.
Maybe not expand it greatly, but add,
right.
Refine what's there so that it says exactly what we want it to say, fits with Randy's guidance, etc. That's just one person's perspective. Another values document,
Yeah.
I think, is another project. Not undoable, but just a different project.
I'll say this: a preamble is meant to explain what the following document, in other words, the whole charter, why it's there. Okay. And so you say this about it and this about it and this about it. And then part of it would be what you're talking about. And I do have the one right here that is approved. And I think it's the same one you've got. Go ahead, Kyle.
Maybe we change the title. Maybe it's not the preamble, because there is no postamble, or there is no amble. So I'm fine with that too. That could be a great skeleton, or even the predominance of a values statement, or call it whatever makes sense in the end. But I don't think we're far. It's a much different output of all this committee's work. But I think in your presentation, that's part of what gets said. I'm really reluctant to not incur some kind of. I hear and I appreciate that the county level is a what are we, 39 counties in Washington state, 37 or 39. At that level, it is a challenging place from which to begin this. If we weren't elected for just 1 year, I'd be in for the fight, but this will be a majority thing, and I don't have any better ideas than I did a week ago. So,
well, I've got the preamble here. You guys went away. Let me get you back here. Just a second.
Yeah, I've had my hand up for a long time. I just want to say one quick thing. Is that okay?
Yes, ma'am. Yeah,
I feel
go
like
ahead.
you're maybe not seeing me. Yeah,
I'm not seeing anybody right now.
I just want to say I appreciate what Kyle said, and I support that, and I think it can be done without too much committee changes.
What can be done? What do you exactly? What do you mean?
Just just tweaking the language that we already have here. If that is
in the preamble you're talking about. The preamble.
The language that he put. What?
Yeah, the preamble is 5 sentences long. If you want to give me 30 seconds, I'll read it to you.
Oh,
It's in the
okay.
chat also.
He put it
Bob.
in the chat there, yeah.
Okay, so you don't need that. All right. Yeah, yeah, that's it. With the word resilient misspelled, but that would need to be changed. But that is it. And as you can see, it starts off talking about establishing the home rule charter. So if we were going to use this not for a preamble, that would come out, and probably the next thing would come out. And, you know, at one point we talked about doing a Bill of Rights, which was a Bill of Rights that would talk about what humans can't do to humans, and then what humans can't do to nature. And then we got rid of that and just talked about nature and what we thought about nature. And I don't know. I'm kind of reticent to take the preamble apart. You know, that was written to replace the present preamble that was in there, and kind of states, thank you, kind of states what it needs to state. It does use the, I thought it used the words rights of nature in here somewhere. We recognize that nature has the right. Well, that's the same thing, the right to survive and thrive, et cetera, and that we ought to defend those rights. I don't mind keeping that in there. I think that might squeak by, but Patty.
I like that. I like that language myself.
Yeah, Patty.
I don't know where my Zoom thing went, but I don't see anybody, but at least I can still hear you. And I just want to make the comment that, oh, there we are. Okay. I just want to make the comment that if we have the preamble, which is for the whole charter, and that's, you know, I'm kind of inclined to put in the statement next to it about our values for what we see as our environment and everything, but keep the preamble as a statement for the whole charter. It's a vision statement, but we're doing more than just what this committee is working on. But I do want us to have what we're working on in there also as either a vision statement for the community of the St. Lucie or whatever. I don't want to lose that, and I don't want to stick it only in the preamble and have it sort of be our vision statement instead of for the whole charter. That's just me.
Here's the thing. If we wrote up a statement of what our values are, included the rights of nature and everything, and we're going to put that in there, and we put it on the ballot in November, and it got accepted, we would know something then. And the Climate Commission would know something then, and the council would know something then, which is that the entire community, or at least the part that votes, supports that idea. And wouldn't that be invaluable for the commissioner, climate commissioner, and the council to realize that the entire voting populace here supports the idea of these values? And I'm talking about the values that we set out that Liz had in her document, you know, and pretty much. Yeah, Kyle.
Your last sentence sways me away from this. I think what is different, and this just a mechanical thing. It's not that I don't support what you said, but mechanically, what's different from something we produce and put in front of the voters, and say, for instance, the introduction to the county budget or the introduction of the comp plan? The only difference that I see is that most people haven't seen the budget or the comp plan, or, you know, ingested any of it on their own. So this puts some of that language or similar language in front of people. But if you vote on this in the fall, are you voting on whether we agree to have a vision statement or not, and that it's this one? It's a little less structured, maybe. You follow? So, you know, the following, how would you word it? The following will or won't be the vision statement, shared vision statement of San Juan County.
I wouldn't talk about a vision statement, because the vision statement, I'm sorry, Kyle, you were still talking. I didn't realize that. Go ahead.
No, I'm done. Thanks.
I think that a vision statement sets out what you see down the way. This is our vision, a place that does this and does that and that. And values, if we wanted to say values, we would be saying, this is what is in our hearts about this particular subject. And the subject could be as wide as we wanted to. It could be the climate and environment, or it could be the rights of nature, and we could set out 10 things, what those are. We've been bouncing them around for months now. We ought to know. We could set out 10 things, and then we could ask those two places, the council and the climate commissioner, to do their best to put those values into play. Liz, you had a hand up, I think.
I was just trying to understand, Kyle, was your question is just simply, what does that look like on the pamphlet? What is that? What's presented for the voters to vote on? Is that what you're asking? Because you're not going to ask them to prioritize these values,
Right.
So that's what I'm envisioning that you're asking is, what does it look like on the voter's guide?
Well, I guess to Bob's earlier point, this, if we put it in front of people and they consume it, whether it was in an insert in one of your semi-annual tax statements, or it was inside the sleeve of the interlibrary loan book you got, or you see this statement of values everywhere. But when it comes to the ballot, we're essentially asking, do you concur that these represent the groups on majority values? Or, some people might read through them and be like, I love 10 of those, and 2 of those I can do without, and 3 of those I just don't agree with. But on whole, I'll vote yes, because that sounds good and it sounds like what it represents. I like that. It feels good. Maybe that process or that document becomes key enough that it's a go back to place for the commissioner, what are we deciding the right term is for the OC head, the office head? Whatever that is.
Commissioner or director.
I'm not saying don't do it. I like the concept, but what are you voting for, and what are people going to be posed with come November? That's the question.
It just, if I may, Mr. Chair.
Yes, ma'am.
It strikes me that the county spent years, months, tax dollars, staff time, clarifying county values through the comprehensive plan. And a lot of that came down to protecting the environment, protecting the rural nature of our islands, so that's already been asked and answered to a certain degree. I was a part of those, and they brought people together over and over and over again, gave them different ways to express their opinion, wandering around the room with dots and public forums and all kinds of different ways to pull forward. They did a great job of it. And then they hired a consultant to go through all that information and bring back the results of that laborious effort. And so the bottom line of that had to be with our comp plan, which did get watered down through our previous county council members. But the strength of those voices there was, let's do this, let's protect the natural environment. So my thought is there anything we can do to strengthen the comp plan and strengthen the fact that we have a chance in hell to get the OCE through? What would that look like? What could that look like?
Bill.
We kind of started down this path by Kyle spending a lot of time extracting from the comp plan exactly what we would include. It's an extensive list, but one of the problems with the comp plan is it is the carrying out of a state law, and we can't touch it. We can't even deal with its direct subject matter. And this, Randy has explained before, the GMA is untouchable, which greatly limits the ambit of our action.
Yeah, Sharon.
But if our county is out of compliance with the GMA, which I have heard that it has been, what we're trying to do is create, at best, a new position in our government to make sure that the comp plan does get carried out, or that at the very least we hire more enforcement people to do just that and nothing else. So it's not like we're not creating the structure to do that.
Right. I
And
mean, I
Bill-
think the climate commissioners are going to help. Yes, Liz.
So Bill, I apologize. I don't understand when you say we can't touch, we can't go near. I don't know what that, so I'm talking about writing a document that reinforces the value of the comp plan and the importance of the OCE. Is that touching that document in a way that's going to get our hands slapped? I don't understand what.
Here's, I can only, since you're asking, I'll try to answer. We can talk about values. There's no problem with that. What we can't do is have any actions that that would be controlled by or guided by the comp plan. But we can, I think we're completely free on values. I don't mean to say that.
Yeah, I'm tampering down my anger a bit, just trying to, so in 2000, and I get it, Bill, I'm not
Yeah.
alone and
Yeah.
each of us, wafting through this pool of anger that's floating around, they're available to anybody who wants to tap into it. In 2003, the county, adopted the Earth Charter. And Kevin talks about in 2008, all of the things that were put in place, and those things haven't been done. What's missing in our government to ensure that those things get done? And can this particular body do anything about that?
Climate commissioner.
I don't mean, I'm sorry to
Bill.
butt in, and I know Liz and I keep having these dialogues, but this is exactly why the office is being created. It's exactly why the laws are in place. Nobody's enforcing them. And so we would need somebody to oversee, hey, this is going on. Hey, that's going on. Hey, prosecutor, move on this. This is why the hole you're referring to is what the new office is intended to fill.
And if I may.
Yes,
Bill,
Liz. But then we got to go to Sharon. Go ahead,
Sure.
Liz.
My question remains the same, not to reiterate what we've said that we can't do, but what in fact can we do? You refer to it as the hole that, that the OCA is filling. What can this particular body do to strengthen what the comp plan attempted to do and what the OCE is going to attempt to do? What specifically can we do to help that?
This is a
I
car
see
we
your hand, Kyle, but
can paint
Sharon
but
was
not drive.
Go ahead, Sharon.
Yeah, I want to, if somebody has a direct answer to that question, go ahead and I'll reserve what I was going to say.
Kyle, did you have your hand up to answer that question or for some other reason?
I just want to be clear from Liz when she asks this body question mark, is it this committee or the
Yes.
or the commission? I think this committee, the values concept is valuable. I just the piece where I hang up is, depending on how it is structured, how it is worded, imagine your ballot in front of you. Are you voting just to say, I agree that this represents my values and I want the county to use this values statement? And in that case, to the work that's happening at Justice and Equity, I think there are other, not to muddy the water again, but I think when someone looks at it, they're like, well, the values, yeah, I have these values, but I have a bunch more. And so I'm gonna, I'll vote yes, or I'm not sure, it doesn't really represent everything I want, so I'm not gonna vote on it. I like the idea of setting up this this beacon. We need a beacon. We need a beacon that really clearly articulates from where this county wants to, start its future, or pick up and chart a better course or steer the ship. Is that a document? Is that something that we craft? Are we going to keep pushing on that? And then is the preamble really, does that inform the entire charter document? And by extension, then this values document? Does a system of values go in, in chapter 1 of the charter? Does it go down in general provisions in 8 or 10, wherever that is? I'm just looking for clarity or just looking from a conceptual idea from the rest of you who envision that, just to help us and figure out if the preamble is enough, if it were expanded, or if we really are back to get rid of Bill of Rights, get rid of the terms rights, and talk about values. And is it a bulleted list?
When you say beacon, I think that, I have a dream, and I'm thinking, I have a forest. I have a forest statement.
Go ahead, Sharon.
Love it.
Sharon. Had your hand up.
Sorry. Sorry, I keep clicking on things and then they take time to move around. Really just want to say to Liz, I respect your anger. I also feel that anger and that frustration. And I'm frustrated out of my mind with some aspects, at least, of the state law. And I'm exhausted from trying to get the legislature to pass things on the state level. So I won't go into details now, but it's very frustrating. The state is not as progressive as we want it to be. And we are, feeling the shackles of that. And also, we're going to have to keep pushing beyond this commission. Whatever we put in, whatever ends up getting passed in this charter this year, we're definitely going to push it forward from where it was. Not as far as I would like to push it or as you would like to push it, apparently. But I just think we're going to put things in the charter that are going to help move us forward and set us up for more things that we want to accomplish, like ordinances, like local ordinances.
Right, right.
But what I'd like to say is just take a minute and to be with that anger and that frustration, to just let it. I'd like to lead a little process, if maybe this isn't an appropriate time, but at some point I would like to do that because I think it could be helpful.
Thank you, Sharon. Patty.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that as an argument, of course, for the OC, the Office of Climate and Environment, and that is where our strength may be, because part of what it does is go to lobby the state to do the things that we want it to do. And I do think it's important for our charter to have a vision statement of what we want that office to push. But yeah, I totally agree that if anything, if we can get that office there, we can do a lot with it. And
Okay,
thank you. Kyle?
Mr. Chair, I have a question for you. If we're not going to be hard charging and offensive, or on the offensive and direct, do we need the same extent of findings in your mind than moving forward? And if not, I ask this because if not, maybe our meeting on Tuesday could at least be in part, I'd like to think people will go away anyway tonight and over the next couple of days and think through values some more and make sure that we, I think somebody mentioned we've done all of this and have this to a large extent. But if we're going to do a values document, then do we spend the time Tuesday formalizing that, even though that's kind of new for us and wasn't maybe exactly, it still addresses in column A, it still addresses some of the problem statements that we identified, or the issue tracker that we identified. Are we still on the right track in your mind for our report? And is that a good way to spend Tuesday? And for the sake of today's work effort, is that a good direction to steer in?
I wish that we could make the report a week later. That would be really great, because it would give us the Tuesday meeting, and then if we had to have an auxiliary and an additional meeting, between then and then, we could do it. Right now, we asked that of Kevin, and he didn't say, "Yeah, no problem." So I think they've really got plans where they're squished in. And we need to try and get this done. And it is not an impossible task. We have made tremendous progress, tremendous sad progress here so far. I think we are coming up to unanimity that what we need is some sort of statement of our values that we put in front of the public and that the public puts their imprimatur on. I would like to add that we then need to also add on to the end of those values a request to the commission, or maybe we can tell the commission to consider, and to the climate commissioner to take those values and have those be at the center of their activity. Yes, Kyle.
I just wanted to add, I mean, I have full faith at this point then that the OCE flies along with the commissioner, but it's not a done deal. And
no, it's not.
I think the values need to be standalone,
Right.
and work independently of the office. I mean, I'm struggling to see that it doesn't pass, but it's quite possible. And you know, not more than one person in public session has said they would you know, come out of retirement to fight it. So that is I like the idea of that final statement on the end, or that request to the public by way of the OCE, but I don't think it should be attached in a way that it passes or fails itself if the OCE passes.
Oh yeah, I agree with that. It can certainly be worded in a way that would take care of that. And you also want to ask the city council to be guided by those values.
County.
Yeah.
The county council or the city council, if we come up with one for Lopez Village. All right. Yeah. So yeah, Patty.
Well, I was just agreeing with Kyle. We need to make these things stand on their own feet and hope that everything passes. But it's not connected in such a way that if one didn't pass, then, oh, why did you do that? Yeah, just
that
agree.
can easily be the language can take care of that. I think
we could ask in our vision statement that ordinance be made as necessary by whoever, or things would be pursued, or we don't need to put it in the vision statement. I don't know, but yeah.
Kyle.
Kind of some housekeeping point of order, maybe a question for Bill, maybe for you too, Bob. Let's say we want to quote unquote be bold, and we put forth something, even gets, let's say in a progressive county, whatever we put forward in the way of a proposed Bill of Rights or rights of nature, etc., past the people. What are the mechanics? Because I think we're going to have to talk about this with people, and I want to be able to be relevant and informed. What if it passes at the community level or countywide? Then would it likely be the who would take up the case against the county, and what would the likely mechanical finding or resultant activity or action look like? Does anyone? Because I think at this point, if we're going to say that we're not going to challenge the county or challenge the state or whomever above us in the way that we kind of presented it to the prosecuting attorney, what is it going to look like?
Bill.
Prosecuting attorney isn't going to do anything. He in this case has no client. Let's say that nature is to be protected, but how and by whom? Those who are familiar with the Redwoods case, the Sierra Club case, and I am, because a friend of mine shot it down, is that there is no what's called standing. You can say nature has rights, but nature has to sue on its own behalf, because no human can sue on behalf of nature. It is possible for the state and only the state to create the possibility of someone who has standing. This is a state issue, not a county issue. Go ahead.
Bill, that's
Kyle.
not actually what I'm asking. I get the
Okay.
mechanics of that, but what happens then at that point? So let's say we
You two
put it
can go
forward.
ahead and have a conversation, by the way. You can go ahead and have a conversation back and forth. It's all right. Go ahead.
Sharon, did I see another hand? I don't want to talk. Okay. So mechanically, I just want to, let's say San Juan County is the first county to vote on rights of nature. It passes the people. Who then is going to step in? I know it won't be I was going to say Charlie Silverman.
Randy.
Not going to be Charlie. Who's going to step in and say that county charter amendment is unconstitutional?
Oh,
and
okay.
what are the mechanics of that
Sure.
next play out?
CAPR. They're already revved up. If you look at
Who
their
is
activities-
CAPR?
Sorry,
Who's the
Said that.
CAPR?
they're the
That's
the
Citizens
property
Against-
rights organization. They're
Citizens-
very active in this county. And they basically represent, they represent property rights. And they would sue. The county would defend as best it could. Its costs would be, as you point out, and it's okay, it's for the cause, probably $150,000 to $250,000, and the county will lose. And I guess the question is, what's gained from it? These are sallies from the castle at this point. The prosecutor, that's if a third party action were started, CAPR. But the other half of the question is the one I was talking about. Suppose there's a gross violation. Who sues? Who? Somebody goes out and pollutes. Nobody will sue under this charter provision. They will sue under pollution laws that already exist. There is, in fact, very little that's left to us other than the spirit of the thing to enforce. There's a federal law on most topics, and they preempt a lot of others, certainly within the waterways. There are state statutes and there are county regulations. And the only thing that what we're discussing would cover is what's ever in the cracks that they don't cover. So it would have to be an event that is not covered by an existing law. I would say somewhere in the 90%, I'm guessing, is already covered by existing laws where somebody can sue, not because nature is a thing or has rights, but because it's a violation of a criminal statute. Because, as I have said from the beginning, rights of nature work backwards in controlling human behavior.
Okay.
It's disappointing.
Did I see another hand? Liz?
I just want to say, do we want to be right or do we want to survive?
Can't
I would
argue
like,
that.
I like both.
The way the limitations of the laws, this tiny little maneuverable, non-existent box is set up to defeat, frustrate, limit, isolate, destroy, take down. And in the meantime, it allows the destruction of all of the natural world. So if we can't do it inside that box and we're being told it's too costly and a fool's errand or whatever dismissive term you want to use to attempt to do it, then where are we left except on the current path, which is taking us over the cliff?
In the first place,
Bill,
we
go
end
ahead.
up at the same place. We spend the money and we lose. We're no further ahead. And that's really the problem gained. I think there's an aspect of it that the CRC is simply the wrong forum. We are using the wrong tool. People get elected.
Bill, I've heard that, so please.
Please
Okay.
don't interrupt,
Okay, I'm
Liz.
out.
Go ahead, Bill.
I'm out.
Okay, Liz,
Thanks, Bob.
did you have something? Go ahead, Sharon.
I don't know if this has exactly been said, but it's what's coming up for me is what battles are we going to pick? Because my concern is if we pick too many battles, we'll just get so many people angry at us, especially if we cost the county a lot of money. Where if we can accomplish what we want without that happening, I think we should really look very closely at that.
That's a good point. I would assume everybody would agree that it would be one of our goals not to screw up the Office of Climate and Environment and the Climate Commissioner. We don't want to do something that will screw that up, that we feel will screw it up, right? I mean, anybody disagree with that? But that doesn't mean we have to totally give up reciting these things that are important to us. And we can recite them out loud and get the people in the community to say, you're right, by doing this values thing, I think. It may not have the power of law, but it's got the power of the people. Yeah, Liz.
But does that bring us full circle back to the question Kyle was asking about what is the actual structure for stating these values look like?
I suggest a section that will go underneath the preamble, that the preamble will stay the way that it is because it talks about the entire document, that we have a section that is first. The first thing that appears in our charter is us telling the world what our values are. And I said, I don't want to keep saying this because, but also asking the department,
Yeah.
the new department and the council to put these values into action, not so they won't just float out there, unlike the way, that our other values that we've got out there in a document aren't working. But that's the way I would have it structured, and that it would be something as simple as one sentence with a colon and then the list of what those rights are. One line, and then at the bottom, this is the way we feel, and that it be structured to deal with nature and or climate environment, either narrowly with the rights of nature or more broadly with climate and environment. And let's not make climate a bad word, because it's important for us to take care of the climate, but we need to not just have it be the climate. We need to have it be in the environment, which we look upon as nature, etc. But that's the way I see it. What do other people think? Sharon.
Personally, I'd rather call it atmospheric stability. But anyway, yeah, I'm just thinking about how many people in this county support what we're doing. I think Kevin might have given us a number, a kind of an estimate, but I'm guessing that, a strong majority of people in this county will get behind what we're trying to put into place structurally. Not that there's not going to be pushback. There's already been pushback. People are scared of change, especially when it affects their purse strings in any way, or they're afraid it might. One of the people that was very vocal on the CRC call a couple nights ago runs a whale watch business on Orcas. He didn't say that, but he does.
Oh, okay. I know
And-
you're talking about.
Yeah. So I think I told you about the time I was on a whale watching boat that used over 300 gallons of gas to catch a glimpse of a gray whale by the peninsula. So, I'm totally up for that, for that, argument and that pushback, to push back against that pushback. I just think if we can put things in structurally and get them passed despite the nasty pushback that we know we're going to get, that's huge. It would be huge. I guess that's all I have to say for right now.
Thank you, Kyle.
Sharon, can you say that last part again? Go ahead and move forward, expecting the pushback and embracing it.
Well, we should expect and accept and push back with good information and with, strong hearts, and also respectfully push back against that pushback, because we know this is coming from a place of fear in people. And we are trying to make change that is scaring some people. So, just
Yes.
have empathy, and conduct ourselves with respect, and speak, speak a lot more kindly maybe than we're being spoken to, but we're going to accomplish this.
Thank you, Sharon. We've got about 3 more minutes before public comment. Kyle?
I intend to do that, and I think on the whole that most of us will. The question, I think, one of the questions I have is, do you do that in a formalized way and go forward and use the mechanics of a democratic republic to challenge this, and then push, knowing it's not the people who will do the pushing ultimately in the courtroom, although there are means to do some of that. It will be standing case law, et cetera, et cetera. I think there's a lot of intention. Maybe that's part of a values document, is to help give people some grounding for intention in this bigger conversation, and listening to some of the people that like the person Sharon's referring to from last week. That's different, I think, though, than taking on. I'll be curious to hear from you folks that are listening from the public today on your perspective now. I don't think there's any question that we want to push. The question is the mechanics of this group to do so. And I'm no further along, sort of predictably, than at 12:59 when I was signing on. But there is a question in there fundamentally. Do we move forward? I hadn't really thought about putting some of the other amendments at risk potentially in the how we do this, and whether or not there might be some of that pushback on the part of the citizens. But for the purposes of tomorrow, or Tuesday rather, and the time in between, I'm all for kind of going through and filtering the lists we've made so far for a values document, and at least having that. And for the presentation part, for you, Bob, or whoever's doing that, the verbal around this is seen. We see this as an educational piece and a foundational piece from which the OCEC can justify part of their position and part of their work product, and maybe even the specific the office's findings, if you will, for taking the particular tack they do. So
that sounds really good, Kyle. Sounds good to me. Can I ask, we've just got about another minute before we go into this. Let's all separately look at what we have been dealing with over the last couple of months, and which one of those items we could classify as values. Maybe even jot down a sentence of how that's a value, and possibly share this information with each other before our next meeting on Tuesday, with the object on Tuesday to come out with a values document that does all of this. We can easily come up with I think the findings for this shorter values document. I think we've made a lot of, as I said, sad progress, but okay. Let's go into the public comment now. Let me ask the members of the public who are here, go ahead and unmute yourselves and put your videos on, and put your hands up if you have a comment to make, please, at this time. Joan is first. Go ahead, Joan.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yeah, thank you so much for allowing me to be here and to share some of my comments. If it would be okay, I would love to share something that I prepared by sharing the screen. Is that okay?
Of course, go ahead.
All right, thank you. This, I believe this, you have seen this already. This is the part of the letter that was submitted by the Community Rights San Juan Islands, and it summarizes how the how a local charter or local charters have incorporated Bill of Rights. I hope I'm not too late in presenting this. I know you have decided to move away from Bill of Rights, but I just wanted to answer to respond to the point that charter, home rule charter is the wrong place to deal with rights of nature. But as you can see in different places around the country, these are the structures of their home rule charters, and some do it in the first article, some do it in the preamble, or in Article 1 after the preamble, some do it as the last section, last article of the charter, or here, doing it as part of the sustainability code, which is also part of the charter. So if you would like the link to this document, again, I'd be happy to share that with you. But just want to quickly, show you. So, example, this is the city of Pittsburgh. This is their website, and right here is the Bill of Rights for the city, and same as Santa Monica, California. Here is where the Bill of Rights resides. And the same as here, Broadview Heights, community rights is in the last article. And also as part of the submission is the appendix. The appendix is attached, and here I would like to share with you the content. So this is just a good way to take a look at the I'm sorry. we have answering machine, but anyway, this is to compare the content of the different Bill of Rights contained in the local charters, and the as you can see, the most of them are actually just what I consider perhaps statement of values, that our residents possess a fundamental right to sustainable access, use, consume, preserve water. That's an example, rights of natural communities, rights of sustainable energy future, so on and so forth. And then there are sections that deal with enforcement, rights as self-executing, that the rights shall be enforceable against corporations and so on, and to further secure the rights, and so on and so forth, it shall be unlawful for a corporation to engage. Anyway, I'm just pointing out that perhaps if you feel I agree that that if we want to include anything that's enforceable, this is not the domain of the CRC. But I feel the top part, when we talk about the rights of residents to clean water, to clean air, to sustainable energy future, and so on, these are actually to me, statement of values. And it could also be modified to, if you feel like the word right might be a trigger for some legal mechanism, maybe we could word it in a way that says that our residents shall have equal access to consume, preserve water. We can leave out the word right, but I just wanted to point out that these examples serve as a guide for how we could make the values that we all agree on really clear and really strong in the charters. And yeah, so that's all I wanted to say at this point. And I will paste the link to the document that I'm sharing with you on the screen right now, in case you would like to pursue it further, but you should also have the link to it as well in the letter that you receive.
Okay.
Thank you so much for your attention.
And thank you, Chum. Let's see, we have Vince next.
Well,
And Chum, could you take down the screen, Chum?
Yes.
Thank you. Go ahead, Vince.
So I'd like to thank the commission for their work. I'm sorry.
Could you start off with telling us your full name and where you're from?
Sure. I'm Vince DeCutis on San Juan Island.
Thank you.
So I'd like to thank the commission for their work and the opportunity to comment and for being open to public viewing. For brevity, I'm going to just read from some comments that I put together here so they don't wander off.
Sure.
As I said, I'm Vince DeCunis, and for transparency's sake, I'm currently the president of the board of directors of Opalco. However, I'm commenting as an interested citizen. My comments are informed by 10 years of Opalco's board. Safe harbor statement, my comments are not meant to represent current or future positions or policies of the board, management, or staff of Opalco. So one, I want to express my sympathy with your feelings about your work. I've been frustrated for a decade with the difficulty of communicating the big picture concerning the challenges of greening our energy grid to the public. Far too much reporting from the media, interest groups, and social media is woefully devoid of reality. I think you're running up against that problem. I'd offer the opinion that the biggest challenge you've got is educating the public as to what the practical realities of the Bill of Rights of nature would be. As an example, probably over the last couple of months, I've probably read 500 reports and 10,000 pages on the subject of degrowth. The advocates make a cogent case for what they're trying to do, but none of them can demonstrate any tangible way to actually get to a low energy or low consumption society and what the implications would be. In other words, there's not a roadmap to how to get there. The recently released 2021 energy strategy from the Washington State Department of Commerce, Senate Bill 5126, which is the Climate Commitment Act, and CETA, they're full of nice vision. They fail to mention the small fact that to get there is going to require spending as much as the current total state budget of the state of Washington for the next 10 years. It's like the phrase in the textbooks, and the proof is left as an exercise for the students. So in developing support for a Bill of Rights, I would hope you could get to a, here's what is better 5 to 10 years down the road if we follow through, and what will we have to do to get there? I believe exceptionally vague goals may have negative consequences. My concrete suggestion for you is, from what I have heard, and I've watched virtually all of the YouTube videos of the commission's work on this, and that I think your best opportunity is the Office of Climate and Environment. Do what you have to do to make that pass. And then you should add them an additional responsibility and funding to implement extensive education and outreach on all issues related to the climate and environment. You need to build a coalition among the people to get your support. And attempting to go vague and aspirational at this point in time, I'm afraid it's going to have blowback on it. So take a victory where you can get it, which would be getting the Office of Climate and Environment in there. Do what you have to do to make that happen, and give them the opportunity and time to reach out and work with the public to make your vision come true. And I thank you for your opportunity to comment.
Thank you, sir. And let's see, who do we have next? Any hands up? Yes, Ben.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay, Ben Bama, San Juan Island. Again, thank you for all of your work, and as always, the opportunity for public comment. I was unfortunately under the impression this meeting started at 3, so I missed the entire first half of it, and I think that would have been really helpful for the context of the second half. And so unfortunately, I don't have as much to say as I would probably like to, but I just want to say, I can see that you folks are really grappling with the best way to go forward with this. And I wish I had some kind of an answer. Unfortunately, I don't. I just want to, again, offer my unwavering support for however the rights of nature / citizens bill of rights / values, whatever we want to call it, that those values do get somehow incorporated to some degree in the upcoming charter, and again with a huge emphasis on enforcement. And I did very much enjoy what Vince just said, that education, I think, is probably going to be really, really important. I think being straightforward, like he said, instead of being vague, super important. And I just want to again encourage everyone involved to heavily season all of this with optimism instead of pessimism. I'm prone to pessimism myself, but I try to remind myself all the time, come from a place of optimism. Also, I want to thank Chom for her comments. And again, a lot of work was put into that document that I believe all of you on the committee received from the Community Rights San Juan Islands. There is a lot of good information in there. And if you do have the time to read it, if you haven't already, I encourage you to. But again, thank you again for all your work on this.
Thank you, Ben. Micheline.
Hi, everybody. First of all, I missed the meeting too. I thought it was supposed to be at 3. Thanks so much just for being here. You know how much I appreciate what you're doing. I've said it over and over again, and I mean it from my heart. I do want to say that I do support maybe another statement of values that you discussed. And I wanted to thank Vince, Chum, and Ben for their comments. I thought that it shows a lot of time spent from the community about this, that they're willing to spend their time. And I think that there is going to be pushback, but I think you'll be surprised at how much the community is going to rally around this. I think education is huge, but I think there's already a lot of people on board. Right now, just a small thing that's happening. Well, it doesn't seem small to me, but a lot of photographers who don't live on the island are walking all over Cattle Point to take pictures of the foxes. Someone uploaded a picture to Facebook of this yesterday, and the community response to this was like, why? There should be regulations. They don't know. We need to talk to them. I mean, there's just a huge community response, all positive. So I think that the community is more behind you than you think. And with a little education, or even a lot of education, I think you can rally more. It's discouraging to me to think that my voice can't proclaim rights like a industry's voice can. And here's how it is to me. Watching this go around our island, seeing Twix wrappers floating by in the water, and neighbors spraying with herbicide, people cutting down eagle snags, watching boats swirl around the orcas. It's like watching a little kid get beat up. And what my government is saying to me is I can't go help. I have to stand by and watch or bury my head in the sand. I'm not willing to bury my head in the sand, but it's hurting watching. So I thank all of you for all your work, because you're going to give people like me a voice someday in the future. And I thank you. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Micheline, for your comments. Are there any other members of the public that wish to say anything? If not, we'll close this segment of the meeting and go back to the rest of our meeting. And is it the thought of the committee that we're where we need to be, or do we need to have further discussion today about anything? I think that we're headed toward, if I've got the way everyone's feeling, we're headed toward a value statement. We're not giving up entirely. We're heading toward a value statement, and we want to try and take a look at that and perhaps even pass it on Tuesday. This means one or more people need to show up with a skeleton of some kind, and with having thought about the various things that we have looked at during this period of time, and converting them into values. Thank you so much. And I know I'm as sad as the rest of you. Yeah, Patty.
Just wanted to remind you that you need to send me that other issue so I can kind of do a spreadsheet thingy.
Oh yes, the various issues for the spreadsheet. Thank you very much. There's more than one, so I'll send them to you. Sharon, did you have something?
Yeah, I had posted in the chat a couple of links to things that might help us kind of differentiate between value statement, vision statement, mission statement, if that might be helpful to people. I just pulled them off the internet.
Okay, how do we go? I don't know anything about the chat. How do we go into that stuff after the meeting's over?
And save the chat. Save the chat, and then you can go back into it. It's a text file.
How do we say? I'm sorry. How do we save the chat?
Well,
save it in Zoom.
Do you have a thing at the bottom left, bottom right of your screen underneath the chat comments? I have a little box on the bottom right. It has a little box with 3 horizontal dots in it. Do you have that?
Let's see, maybe I need to, oh yeah, wait, it just came up, yeah.
Oh, yeah, I do.
You click on that
Save
and then you
chat.
click on Save
Bang.
Chat.
Bang, thank you.
And it'll save on your hard disk as a text file.
Okay, thank you,
It saves it in
Uh,
my Zoom folder, in fact.
thank you. Liz,
I just wondered if we could do a bit of a reality check here in terms of time frame for folks. Because Bob, if I understood you correctly, you had tax stuff you needed to disappear into, and
yeah,
so I just wanted to see, who in the group. But it's Sunday afternoon. My Monday is got a whole bunch of other things in it. So that was my question. Does anybody see themselves having a nice chunk of time?
I will. My head is maybe going to explode, but the post office closes at what time? I mean, the mail out is 2:30. So after, if I don't have it out by 2:30, they're going to come get me. Okay. So that means from 2:30 on, I can take a look at this stuff. I can give us some stuff to start with. I know this committee likes to go, no, Bob, but we can, we could try anyway.
We always appreciate your starting.
I know you do. I'm not complaining. Patty.
I just will say, yes, I'm going to do what I can. If it takes more than I have time, then it will, but I'll see you on Tuesday with whatever I have.
You are you are a gem, kiddo. I think Sharon was next and then Kyle. Go ahead, Sharon.
I could put in a little bit of time on Monday. I do have the Justice and Equity Committee meeting at 4, but I could meet with you a bit before that.
Could people think about maybe sending to everybody anything that you might come up with? Any little thing, any ideas?
Yes.
So that we've got this, and this to read between now and the time the meeting starts, and maybe get a leg up on it and go, oh, it's as simple as that. Maybe it'll come to us. And who had the next, was it you, Liz?
I think it was Kyle and then me.
Kyle, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Kyle.
I would say the same, I guess, as Patty about spending some time between now and the meeting. I can certainly contribute it to the group as I work through it. And I was going to tease and say, maybe Bob, it'd be easier for you if the gendarmes from from U.S. Treasury did come pick you up and take you away.
That's the easy way. The easy way out. Yeah, I just don't do my taxes. I don't have to worry about this.
Problem solved.
Thanks, Kyle. Anybody else? Yes, Liz.
So I just wanted to request from our community members and that have been so supportive all along that if you want to put things in front of us for value statement, to the best of your ability, do it sooner.
Oh, yeah.
And because we do like Wayne, what you've said, it's valuable. So, and I don't, it sounds a bit of a knock on the work you did. And I didn't intend that, an insult. I didn't intend that. We appreciate what you do. The sooner you get it to us, the more we can weave it into what we're working on.
Great suggestion, Liz. Great suggestion. Patty.
I just want to also make that strong because I compiled a whole list of everybody's comments. And of course, it could have been 20 pages long. I had to shorten it up a bit, but we do take that.
Oh, yeah.
Seriously.
Yeah, I've got 18 separate emails from 15 different people with various comments, and I'm so appreciative of them. All right, Kyle.
Two things quickly. I hadn't really thought a lot about it before today, but I appreciate that. I'm grateful for all of the members of the public who've come along on this journey. It was nice. It was maybe a little, sadly, a little late to have that link up with Opalco, but I would love to have more of a link between the county and some of our other entities that kind of have a big say in not only how we move forward in the future, but how we bring along the citizens and the ratepayers, et cetera. So I hope there's some ongoing conversation with the board at Opalco. I like that. And then I just wanted to ask, not to dwell on it, but I know we're going to have Bill some visits, and then he's away for a while. I just wanted to wish him well, and I'm not sure if he's joining us on Tuesday anymore or what the plan is, but just wanted to acknowledge that. And
this Bill here, what's going on, Bill?
I'll be here this week.
Oh, good.
Okay.
Good. That's very, very valuable. Thank you, Bill. Anybody else? Do I hear a motion?
Motion that we close.
Yes, somebody make a motion.
Second.
What? Okay, we have a motion to disband. No, not disband. To adjourn. Adjourn, I guess. All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Bye.
All opposed, stay here and talk to yourself. Bye.